You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News for April the 16th here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca. Before we get started, I'm just going to mention that, as you notice, Cindy is not here with me again today, and she won't be for the next few weeks as she is out west in British Columbia doing some training on psychedelics, but she will return at the end of the month, and we will continue on with our news as we've been doing. Other than that, don't forget to hit the like and share button. Always have to remind people about that. Sometimes it can become a pain in the butt. But, you know, hey, new listeners and viewers of the program, it's always a nice little reminder to let them know that, hey, we're here. Like and share us, and get your cannabis and psychedelic news twice a week here. Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Now, as I mentioned, the date is April the 16th. That means it is almost 420. And many people and businesses will be celebrating that over the next week. For me, myself, I'll be celebrating my 41st wedding anniversary. Yes, 41 years. I wasn't even aware of 420, and neither was my wife, who, by the way, picked the date. And I agreed with it, just, trying to get along and everything. And we weren't aware of April 20th or 420 or anything to do with its meaning. And but since then, we have learned, believe me, we have learned. And we have celebrated our anniversary marching on the streets in Toronto, Niagara Falls, and Peterborough. At some of the events, I've even been a speaker. And particularly the one in Niagara Falls, my wife thought that I had forgotten all about our anniversary. And there I was standing up on the platform there in front of Niagara Falls, and crowd in front of us. And I said to everybody, start talking to them. I said, before I get started, I have to say something. And I said, happy anniversary to Gail, who was my wife, in front of the whole crowd. And she looked at me and she thought I had forgotten, and she started to cry. And the rest is history. So we've gone on from there. But other than that, it is time for me to get on with the news and the first story of the day, if I can find it. Here it goes. This one here is coming to me from cbc.ca. The headline says, how a tiny First Nations community in Nova Scotia is grappling with the burning issue of cannabis. Now, following the RCMP raids and what police call illegal storefronts in Glossop, Nova Scotia, the First Nations there is asking whether it wants cannabis sold on the reserve at all. If the answer is yes, who should sell it and profit from it? This could be private retailers. Who else? I'll just move this camera over the way there, folks, so I'm not hiding in behind the headline there. As I said, who could profit this? Could it be the private retailers, one who is already operating the reserve, or the band itself? The other three options will go on a ballot, and they say in the referendum to be voted on by 340 eligible voters, likely in August at the band's annual general meeting, says Chief Sidney Peters. He says it's not, leadership is just making all these decisions, in the boardroom and then moving forward, says Peters. He says, we're doing what the community would like. He says, community engagement and exercise in self-government is nothing new in Glasgow. It's through the process that the community is founded when it separated from the Annapolis Valley First Nations in 1984, becoming the newest of Nova Scotia's 13 bans. It tackles seemingly every issue this way, from garbage to elder management to settling salaries for chiefs and councillors. There are 450 members, of which only about 125 live on the reserve. Among them, roughly 3/4 are old enough to vote, and the cannabis consultation is happening amid escalating tensions ever since the RCMP started cracking down on the Indigenous-owned truck houses and dispensaries under a directive from the provincial government. They say the province has cited a court decision that does not recognize cannabis sales as a treaty right, and Indigenous cannabis retailers have cases going through the courts, which we have reported here on Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News, and they say they are attempting to confirm the treaty right to sell and earn a moderate livelihood. So those three options, let's see what they are again. They mentioned one option is selling it, or just sell it or not to sell it. There's that option. Should it be private retailers, or should the band itself do it? So those are the three options that they're going to vote on, and we'll keep an eye on that. I know that Cindy is keeping an eagle eye on that because she lives in that area, especially where this place is happening at. She sent me a message last night to let me know that, hey, this is just down the road from my place. So other than that, we'll just keep it in the news, and when we hear more, we will let you all know, and we'll go from there. All right, so from there, we're going to move on to a next story of the day, and this one is one that, for years, once people started using the vape pens, people were talking about the fact that they looked at cannabis as vaping is dangerous, and they kept bunching it in together with vaping of cannabis. And as you can see here, vaping of cannabis is completely different than doing a vape pen. In the Marijuana Moment headline, it tells us here that vaporizing marijuana reduces byproducts by 99% compared to joint smoking, according to a new study. Vaporizing marijuana releases far fewer harmful chemicals than smoking a joint does, according to the new study. They say that these results demonstrate that combustion, not cannabis itself, is the primary driver of harmful inhalation byproducts that are controlled, and that controlled vapor. The study conducted and self-published by the vape device company PAX found. Everybody seen those little PAX vaporizer devices. Now, vaporization, in contrast, heats cannabis to below the point of combustion while still releasing cannabinoids and terpenes. The research conducted by Richard Rucker, who serves as PAC's Director of Product Integrity, and Derek Schukacher. Yeah, I can't pronounce that one. Sorry about that, Derek. He's a senior chemist and data scientist at the company. Compared aerosol generated by PAC's dry herb vaporizing device called Flow and its oil vaporizing device called Trip with smoke from combusted cannabis joints. Now, the team compared levels of 16 HPHCs and between the methods of consumption and all using the same batch of ground lemon cake batter cannabis from Hobart Farms. Now, across all measured analysis, vaporization reduced harmful byproducts by up to 99% compared to joint smoke, and they concluded, and that across the 16 qualified HPHCs, vapor aerosol contained up to 99% lower concentrations compared to joints that were smoked. And they concluded that these results demonstrate dramatic reductions in key combustion markers, including aromatic hydrocarbons. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, a lot of people were on the negative end of saying vaporizing is bad for you. And I kept saying to people, we're going to these shows in Toronto and other places and saying, well, people were asking us about this harmful effects of vaporizing. And we were saying that that's not vaporizing whole cannabis. That's vaporizing another product that's made out of cannabis. And at that time, they were putting other things like PPG and glycerol and stuff in it, and it had a harmful effect. But straight up regular old herb, just vaporizing it isn't that big scary thing that they talked about for years in the news, and they still bring it up every once in a while as well. So, all righty, from that story, we're going to move on to my next one. This one is coming to me from MJ Biz Daily, and now I'm not surprised by its headline, to tell you the truth, and that is because I look at it as convenience more than anything. And what am I talking about? And here we go. Headline there says that pre-rolls overtake flower as top-selling cannabis products in the USA. That's right. Pre-rolls. Easy. Already done. You don't have to fight the weather if you're outside trying to roll your joints. I've been pre-rolling my own for the last 20 years, so I know its benefits. Now, American cannabis consumers prefer pre-rolls over any other product. Continuing a years-long trend, pre-roll unit sales grew nearly 20% last year to become the most sold cannabis product category in the United States, according to a new report from Renton, what is a Washington-based packaging and manufacturing company. Custom Cones USA is there. Now, pre-rolls generated $3.6 billion in sales, a nearly 10% increase from 2024, according to the report, based on numbers from cannabis and analytics firm Headset. Now, consumers purchased more than 383 million units, giving the category a 16% market share, according to the Custom Cones. And they say that pre-rolls are no longer an afterthought, according to Custom Cones CEO Harrison Baird. He said in a statement, what started as a trim byproduct, pre-rolls have matured into a highly competitive, innovative-driven category where brands are winning through quality, scale, and smart branding. I noticed they said byproduct. I hope they're not referring to the fact when people first started consuming the pre-rolls, a lot of the allegations was that this was sort of shake or floor sweepings, as some people called it. And it wasn't actually a whole bud. Now, I haven't bought a pre-roll in a long time because I don't need to because I have my own. But I don't know whether things have been increased or obviously gotten better. I would think they must have, the fact that these are now number one categories. So. Now, as far as the story goes, it continues to say, popular with millennials, a key cannabis industry demographic, the pre-roll category has posted 5 consecutive years of growth, consistently outpacing the broader market, according to the report. Now, the report also says that several trends are driving cannabis pre-rolls steady growth. They say infused pre-rolls because of their high potency products. They say they brought in $1.7 billion, making up 47% of the entire category. Now, bulk purchases, multi-packs represent nearly half of all available products on cannabis store shelves. Now, and millennials. This generation accounts for nearly 44% of total pre-roll revenue. The category is expected to expand as well, with Custom Cones forecasting for 2026 revenue to reach up to $4 billion, and long-term growth pushing the market above $5.2 billion by 2030. Now, that's a lot of pre-rolled joints that are being sold. I know, as I mentioned, pre-rolls are the way for me as far as pre-rolling my own cannabis. It's just so much easier. It's just so much more convenient. I have doob tubes. I just fill them up every morning, and it's there, ready to go. No waiting for it or anything else down the road. No having to fight the weather. So many times I've gone, as I mentioned, 420 rallies. You go to the rallies and you see people sort of huddling together trying to roll joints. But you pre-roll your joints, you don't have to do that. All righty. I have one more story that I'm going to get to. And this has to do with cannabis sales here in Canada, well, in abroad, really. So here we go. Their headline is coming to us from the Business of Cannabis. It says that Germany now represents 62% of Canadian cannabis flower exports as Portugal's share collapses. That's right. Canadian cannabis exports totaled $51.6 million in February 2026 across the three main cannabis codes tracked in export data. That's up 8.7% on the same month a year earlier. Beyond this headline, export growth sits a more nuanced picture of supply chains, trade routes, and emerging markets from the world's largest exporter of cannabis products. The data, drawn from Statistics Canada's Canadian International Merchandise Trade web application, and covering these certain codes, which include dried flower, extracts, and medicaments, which containing cannabis. Now, this provides the most granular public view available of where and how Canadian cannabis is moving globally. The most significant structural shift visible in the February data is that the near complete collapse of Portuguese flower imports from Canada. Portugal received $1.6 million of dried cannabis flower in February 2026. That's down 86% from its peak of $12.4 million in April of 2025, and a fraction of the $11.1 million recorded just 12 months earlier in February 2025. Australia is Canada's second largest flower export destination by cumulative value, having received $230 million between January 2024 and February 2026, ahead of Portugal in total cumulative terms, and the larger market in every month outside Portugal's peak period in early to mid 2025. Through 2024 and early 25, Australia consistently paid $2.37 to $2.72 per gram for Canadian dried flower. And by February 2026, that had fallen to $1.06 per gram. That's a 60% decline per gram pricing over 2 years, and the lowest recorded for any significant destination in the data set. Now, Germany flower imports in February 2026 were $30.4 million, representing 62% of Canadian flower export value that month. Now, the share figure is the highest in the data set. It also demonstrates a dramatic increase in demand following the implementation of Can G on April 1st of 2024. Now, Germany received $3.5 million in flower exports from Canada in February 2024. Now, the February 2026, $30.4 million represents a 763% increase over these 2 years. Germany's average share of Canadian flower export value was 24.8% across the full calendar year of 2024. That rose to an average of 47% in 2025. Germany now absorbs nearly half of all Canadian flower exports by value in an average month, and about 60% in the most recent data point. The United Kingdom has emerged as one of the more consistent growth stories in the data, though it remains a relatively small market in absolute terms. UK flower imports from Canada grew 340% from 2020 in the calendar year 2024 and in the calendar year of 2025. They went from 7.9 million to 34.9 million. Notably, the UK also receives a meaningful volumes across multiple product formats, including flowers and extracts. And really, the UK, let's just say they have cannabis there, but I don't see where, from my stuff anyways, that they are receiving it with open arms. And some people, parents struggling to get access to their to cannabis oil for their children who are dealing with epilepsy. They seem to have that problem there in the UK, and hopefully they can get that corrected, and children who need it can get to it, access to it. Because I know from some of the stories that we've covered over the year, they are struggling to get the access to the oil for the children to deal with their epilepsy. So let's hopefully they can get that changed around. Other than that, I think I'm done for the day. Just some quick stories to keep everybody up to date. And other than that, it's time for me to sign off and say goodbye, and to thank our sponsors, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, as well as At-Eze.ca, and as well as you guys for tuning in to the broadcast. Really appreciate it. Share us, like us, all that type of stuff. Other than that, we will see you next Wednesday, or not next Wednesday, sorry, next Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. And as always, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.